Everyone, today we're learning about arrays, what they are, how to use them, and how they actually show up in practical projects like websites and applications. And we're also going to look at how it connects to the back end. So let's jump right in. Now, an array is essentially just a list of values stored in a single variable. And we have an example here in Visual Studio Code. We have products assigned to an array of clothing or items of clothing like shoes, a shirt, and a hat. And you can use arrays to really keep track of all sorts of things, such as, items in a cart, user profiles, page content like blog posts, and much, much more. So arrays are very, very powerful in organization. And so we have this example here, and we can go ahead and look at this in the console. And we get back shoes. We're getting back products 0. Let's go ahead and view the full array. And we get back shoes, shirt, and hat in the console. Now, as you already kind of saw, you can access individual items in an array. And that's simply, so first, you're going to want to know that arrays start at index 0. Instead of starting at 1, it starts at 0. So shoes is 0, shirt 1, hat 2. And the length of the array is 3. But the starting point, the starting value has an index of 0. And so we can access these items, and you'll see that here. You're going to use brackets. You'll place the index within the bracket. And then when we run this, you can get back. Let's save this first. And you'll get back shoes in the console. We also could get back hat as well. And we will get hat in the console. Great. In addition to accessing values, you also can update them. And let's say we want to, change. We'll comment this out, and then we'll uncomment this. We want to change the shirt. Instead of a shirt, we want to place jeans in that spot, in that location of index of 1. And so we're doing products of 1, index of 1 assigned to jeans instead of shirt. We're reassigning it. And then console.log products to see what the new value is. And so we will see shoes, jeans, and hat in the console. Now, like I mentioned, the length of the array for products is going to be 3 because there's 3 items in it. Even though we start at 0, it's a length of 3, and we'll actually see that. And we can see that here if we uncomment this. If you want to get the length of an array, you're going to want to do products.length, or the name of whatever array it is, followed by a period, and then length. And then we're going to go ahead and run this, and we'll get back 3 console. Knowing the length of an array is pretty helpful because it can be used to loop through arrays. So it's something super common you'll find yourself doing when you're working with a list of essentially items. And you can use something like a for loop to loop through an array. And part of the loop, one of the parts within the parentheses, is exactly that products.length that we just console.logged. And essentially what you're going to do is you're going to set up this loop to go through the array. And there's 3 parts to a loop. You've got the starting point, which is I assigned to a value of 0, or the index. You've got how much you're going to increment by. So I++, we're going to increment 0 by 1. And we're going to keep going for how long? Well, we're going to go until we reach, until I is no longer less than products.length. And so once we reach that point, once we essentially get to products.length, we're going to stop. And so we will see that. We run this. We get shoes, shirt, hat, and we stop. We also could, at the same time, so we get a better idea of this, we can console.log the index. So 0, 1, 2, as you can see. Now, there are other ways to update a list, and there's some built-in tools that you can do. So we did an assignment, but you also can do some other things. And some of those items I want to go into are right here. And so we have these built-in options for arrays, and they follow the name of the array, period, and then the name of the option. and we've got essentially 4 of them. We got push, pop, unshift, and shift. And each of these are pretty useful. You have push here. Push is going to add an item to the end of the array. So up here, it's going to add to the very back. Pop is going to remove the item at the end, very last item. You don't have to specify. It's just going to take the very last one. Then you have unshift, which is going to add to the beginning of the array, which is, essentially the opposite of push. And then you've got shift, which is the opposite of pop. And that's going to remove from the beginning instead of removing from the end. These can be kind of difficult to, wrap your head around, memorizing them. So I definitely recommend memorizing them. Just over, time and trials, you're going to get this memorized. I always struggled with, memorizing, the difference between push or difference between unshift and push. It was often in unshift and shift. Trying to get those all in my head, it was confusing at times, but you'll just have to, practice with them until you get used to it. And so we will see, if we go ahead and run this, we're going to see this in action. Okay. And, let's go ahead and console.log products just to see. Look. Okay, so we got shoes, shirt, hat, and then let's go ahead and uncomment this. Let's do them one at a time so you can get the full experience. So we've got shoes, shirt, hat. Now we got socks. And then let's go ahead and add something to the front. Now we've got shoes, we got gloves, shoes, shirt, hat, and socks. And then we want to get rid of socks. So we're going to use pop. And you'll see that socks is no longer there. And then we want to, go back to the start. We want to get rid of gloves. And we'll see that there. Shoes, shirt, and hat again. Now, how exactly, now at this point I want to go into, now we have a better idea of arrays. How does this exactly connect to the back end? I think that's really important to understand. So, a question you might have or ask yourself is, if the data lives in the back end, why are we using arrays? Why are we storing data in arrays in the front end? Well, essentially, when you make a request, you're going to make a request to a server. That's the starting point for, let's say, products. You want to get a collection of users back, a blog post. You're going to request that from the server, and it's going to come back as a JSON response. And then in order to work with that response, it's going to, you're going to be using an array to work with that data. So you're going to get back JSON, which is JavaScript object notation. It's going to look something like this. It might look like JavaScript. It looks like an array with an objects, but it's not really usable yet. We need to convert this. And so what you'll do to essentially do this whole conversion is you're going to use fetch to get the data from the server, something like fetch. This is essentially an endpoint on the server where you're accessing the data. It's just the location of, this is where you can go to request this data. So we're fetching from this URL. And then we're getting this JSON back right here. We're getting this JSON. And essentially what we're doing is to, convert it into data that we can work with. And so once we have this converted from JSON to just JavaScript we can use, like an array of objects, essentially, this turns into an array of objects, then we can use it the way we've been doing it, display it in the browser or the website using, injecting it into the HTML, into the DOM. We can have that all functioning correctly. And so that's just to give you an idea. We're not going into too much of fetch right now, but in later videos, feel free to subscribe if you want to stay tuned to learn more about fetch, how to use that. That's more to come. But just wanted to approach this topic just a little bit so you have a better idea of what's the value of arrays in the first place. So now to really recap, arrays are essentially, just to think about it, is storing multiple values in one place. And they can be used in everything from shopping carts to user lists. And they work with the data from the back end. So the back end data is going to come as JSON, and then it's going to be converted to a JavaScript array. and you can then work with that data that you're dealing with, whether it's blog posts or products. From there, with the array, to actually work with it, we learned about different ways to manipulate, change, update with loops going through the array, using push, pop, unshift, and shift to make changes to the array. And those are all ways to just help get a better feel for how arrays work, and use them in everyday context. So that's it. In the next video, we'll go into more tutorials to come. But just wanted to touch a little bit on arrays, and so we're gonna continue this series about learning JavaScript. So stay tuned. Feel free to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much.